And it goes a little something like
Hey guys, what's up? This is Stephanie. Welcome back to my channel. So first of all, I want to thank you guys so much because the first reaction of Honkai Pact that I did here on my channel, we got a great response from you guys. So thank you guys so much for all the engagement and thank you so much for the comments. So one of these comments, I'll put it here, recommend me to react to Honkai Chronicles. So first of all, it's introducing to Honkaiverse. The second is Mei. The third is Fuhua. I don't know if I'm pronouncing correctly. The fourth one is Kiana. I know who's Kiana is the blonde one, right? I think she's the main character, probably, right? The fifth one is Durandal, and the sixth one is Otto. Otto, I already heard about it because I play Genshin Impact, and I discovered that Ayato's voice is the same one as Otto's voice. And yeah, I'm super excited for it. And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, and please comment down below which other Honkai Impact reactions you want me to do here on my channel. I think my next reaction will be Honkai trailers. And I searched it a little bit on Honkai official YouTube channel and I saw 51 videos. Correct me if I'm wrong. If I react to 51, probably it will be the longest video in my channel. So yeah, comment down below if you want to see that, okay? So after that, all being said, let's go straight to the reactions. Okay guys, so the first one will be introducing the Honkai verse. So let's go.
Greetings, Captains. Welcome to the Honkai Operations Center. Have you wondered where the Valkyries came from?
No.
What are they fighting for? And what exactly does Honkai mean?
Yeah, I want to know that.
We will be diving into the history and worldview of Honkai Impact throughout this series. Today is a basic introduction to the prequel of the entire story.
Oh my gosh, I need
Throughout
that.
history, the struggle between mankind and nature has never ceased.
I need that.
The Honkaiverse is based on a parallel universe that reiterates this conflict, humanity's struggle against the Honkai. But what is the Honkai? We don't know exactly where it's from, but it's a force of chaos that existed from the beginning of time.
Okay.
It wants to destroy human civilization, and when human technology advances, it grows stronger. Honkai have tried to destroy us through creating supernatural disasters, monsters, and plagues, and giving birth to Hershers, godlike beings who can bend physical laws. In the Honkaiverse, humanity has already established a high-tech global civilization 50,000 years ago. Modern humans refer to this civilization as the previous era. Unfortunately, those high-tech humans in the previous era lost the war and were defeated by the Honkai. The previous era was destroyed, but some humans survived to rebuild human civilization. This brings us to the current era. Of course, Honkai wants to destroy humanity, so they didn't leave us in peace, even in the current era. 2717 BC was the date of the earliest record of the Honkai beast attacks. Fortunately, gifted human warriors such as Ji Xuanyan helped us defeat these early Honkai monsters. But Ji Xuanyan disappeared into the seas after an expedition to defeat the giant Honkai beast Triol. To defend humanity against the Honkai, a religious organization known as the Shiksal rose after the fall of the Roman Empire. Shiksal was led by an overseer, usually a member of the Apocalypse family, who established Shiksal. It helped create the feudal order by helping various European princes gain power. They also developed crude Honkai-powered weapons and initiated the Honkai Crusades. The feudal armies of Europe fought the Honkai, defeating them in many battles and reclaiming lost lands. To increase its power, Shiksal also recruited and trained its own military. The Valkyrie Order is the most famous Shiksal fighting force, and a legendary Valkyrie is Kallan of House Kaslana. The Kaslanas are a family of knights known for their prowess in fighting the Honkai. Kallan's most powerful weapon is the Oath of Judah, an artifact from the previous era that was very effective against the Honkai. However, many things happened in the year 1470. Honkai created an infectious virus that caused the Great Plague and killed millions throughout Europe. But Shiksal did not focus on treating the plague. Instead, the leaders wanted to dominate the Eurasian continent and declared war against the Ming Empire of China. The war ended with Shiksal's defeat in 1475. To pay for the losses, Shiksal increased taxes and took money from the poor. These bad decisions only made Shiksal even less popular. When Shixal tried to recover from its defeat, the Great Plague continued to claim lives. Otto Apocalypse, a younger son of Shixal's ruling dynasty of House Apocalypse, managed to develop a cure in 1475. Although he was not the heir to the seat of Overseer, Otto's discovery increased his popularity. The deaths of his father and brothers allowed him to become the new Overseer.
He's a good
Since
one.
then,
I thought he was
human
evil.
technology continued to grow. Everyone thought Honkai was gone, but the first Honkai eruption took place in 1952 and destroyed the entirety of Berlin. The eruption gave birth to the first Herrscher, a powerful godlike being capable of bending physical laws. Shixal, which has become a rather secretive organization by now, quickly overpowered and captured the Herrscher for research. But Shixal's scientists failed to find out anything. The first Herrscher was then transferred to a Shixal lab in London for additional inquiry. It was there that the first Herrscher was given the name Welt by the resident scientists Einstein and Tesla.
Einstein.
The scientists and leadership of the North American branch were already very displeased with Otto's militaristic leadership. Some even doubted Otto's willingness to eradicate the Honkai. These differences eventually led to the independence of the entire branch, which renamed themselves Anti-Entropy in 1955. Unlike Shixal, which relied on Valkyries as its elite warriors, Anti-Entropy designed and built Honkai-powered mechs. The second Honkai eruption happened in 2000 and destroyed Siberia and the Russian Far East. It turned out that Shixal were performing many inhumane experiments on Honkai-resistant children. One of them, Siren, awakened and acquired Herrscher powers and proceeded to take revenge against those who tested on her and her friends. Shixal mobilized hundreds of Valkyries and depleted its entire arsenal of Honkai fission missiles to defeat this foe. Many Valkyries fell in battle, including Cecilia Shariak, reputedly the best Valkyrie of Shixal. 14 years later, in 2014, a minor Honkai eruption, referred to as an outbreak, took place in Nagazora. The outbreak wiped out the entire city and transformed many into zombies. The cause was the partial awakening of Mei Raiden, the third Herrscher, due to an implantation of a Herrscher gem. The Nagazora outbreak was contained by Shixal Far East Branch, led by Teresa Apocalypse. The few survivors of the event, Kiana Kaslana, Mei Raiden, and Bronya Zajcek, were then enrolled in St. Freya High School, a Valkyrie training school built by Teresa Apocalypse after the Second Honkai War.
Second World War.
Now we can finally move on to the events in the game itself. Honkai Impact 3rd starts in the year 2016. You are the captain of the flying battleship Hyperion of Shixal Far East Branch. You will lead Kiana Kaslana, a brash and hot-headed Valkyrie trainee, and her other friends into battle. We hope this provides a basic understanding of the important events and forces of Honkai Universe.
Guys.
The rest of the history will continue in future episodes, following the life of Kiana, Mei, Bronya, and other Valkyries in the Honkaiverse.
Guys, now, oh my god, that was so necessary. That was so necessary, this video. This should have been my first video ever reacting to Honkai. Like, now I don't know everything, but I have a pretty basic knowledge about what is Honkai. So Honkai, it's an evil, I don't understand if it's machines or if it's aliens. I don't get it. It's an evil organization, just feels like Matrix that wants to kill all the humans. And one thing that I thought it was really clever is that they mixed the real history of our society into this parallel universe, and they put their own twists into it. So for example, the feudal area, the church, the First and the Second War, the Hiroshima bomb, and other things that I'm not intelligent enough to to get it, but I thought it was really cool. So yeah, I'm super happy that I saw this video, and it's so necessary. It's something that you need to watch before you start playing Honkai. Every new player should watch this video. This is perfect. They explain very well. So yeah, I'm super excited. Now I am understanding a little bit more. Let's go to the next one. Okay guys, so let's go to the Thunder Reborn Chapter 2. I think this one is Mei. Let's go.
Greetings, Captain. Welcome back to Honkai Operations Center.
Okay,
In recent stories of Honkai Impact 3rd, Mei has been the center of stage. She returned to the city of Nagazora, regained her Herrscher powers, and once again became the Queen of Thunder.
Yeah.
How did this heiress of a multi-billion-dollar corporation turn into a Hersher? What did she experience and witness?
Okay.
To answer these questions, we have divided May's journey into 4 parts: Origins, Valkyrie, Arc Fugitive, and Returning to Nagazora.
Arc Fugitive? Okay.
May Raiden was born on April 13, 1997 in the city of Nagazora. Her father, Ryoma Raiden, was the head of Massive Electric Corporation. May's mother, however, passed away when she was young, and her name remained a mystery. May was enrolled in the elite high school of Chiba Academy. Only children of rich, powerful, and connected people could hope to study there.
Okay, so she had money.
And May Raiden happened to be one of them, and she was so much more. She was beautiful, tall, and intelligent. Everyone in school idolized her.
A popular one.
But this didn't last forever. Disaster struck ME Corp that her father owned. Ryoma Raiden became a criminal, guilty of economic fraud, and went missing to avoid arrest. May's life was turned upside down. Her classmates and even teachers turned cold and ostracized her. That was when she learned that their friendship and adulation were only reserved for her family fortune and prestige, and those had disappeared when her father ran away.
Unfortunately, society
left alone to face an uncaring world, May soon became extremely jaded and started hearing a voice echoing in the darkness. It promised terrible powers. This world deserves to be destroyed. She chose to become a Hersher and ignited the 2014 Honkai outbreak in Nagazora. Millions died as a result. While May reveled in her new powers, a mysterious silver-haired transfer student named Kiana Kaslana suddenly appeared to stop her. Instead of trying to kill May for destroying the city, Kiana appealed to her human conscience. With her help, May successfully subdued the Hersher within, and Kiana quickly became a close friend. The 2 girls met Bronya, and the 3 of them worked together to flee the stricken city. They were then taken into custody by Himeko, a Valkyrie of Shiksal's Far East branch. Teresa Apocalypse, who's in charge of the Far East branch, used all her powers and resources to enroll the 3 girls into her own Valkyrie training school, St. Freya High. And that was May Raiden, an ex-heiress once worth billions who lost both her parents, became ostracized, acquired Hersher powers, destroyed a city, met 2 very good friends, and started training to become a Valkyrie and defend the world against the Honkai. May was ever fearful of the Honkai within her and agreed to let Himeko implant a heart bomb. The bomb has a sensor that will start a countdown if it detects Hersher impulses within May.
Why?
During her training, May and her friends, Kiana and Bronya, took on many missions that included stopping an ancient Honkai monster, Chio, and recovering a runaway battleship known as the Selene. May also demonstrated her superb cooking abilities. She even learned to play video games. But things would once again turn for the worst. Shortly after graduating as fully minted Valkyries, May, Kiana, and Bronya were sent to Shiksal's Oceania branch to recover a Hersher core, the Gem of Desire. The gem was placed in an ex-Valkyrie named Wendy, who served as its human vessel. But Wendy eventually lost control and became a Hersher herself. While the young Valkyries battled Wendy, Kokolia from Shiksal's rival faction of Anti-Entropy ambushed them, using a brain chip implant to control Bronya and capture both Wendy and May. While May was held as a prisoner to be experimented upon for her Hersher powers, Bronya chose to sacrifice herself by burning out her brain chip so that Kiana and the others could rescue May and escape. May soon realized that her friends often suffered grievously just to save her. A sense of helplessness and a matching desire to get stronger began to grow in her heart. That wasn't the end of the bad news. As Teresa and the Far East branch worked around the clock to wake Bronya from her coma, Shiksal overseer Otto Apocalypse suddenly abducted Kiana and took her to his secret headquarters. It turned out that the overseer always had a secret plan of reviving a Hersher known for her burning hatred against humanity. May, once hopeful that she could protect the world as a Valkyrie, realized that she simply wasn't strong enough. Bronya went into a coma to save her, Kiana was kidnapped, and her ultimate superior, Otto Apocalypse, turned out to be a scheming supervillain who would soon unleash a terrible Honkai disaster upon the entire planet.
I thought he wanted
Once again, May's life entered another pivotal moment. Kiana was revealed to be an
kill the
artificial
Honkais.
clone designed by Otto that served one purpose only: to serve as a vessel to Sirin, the second Herrscher who was defeated in the year 2000. To rescue Kiana and stop the impending Honkai eruption, Teresa of the Far East branch rebelled against Overseer Otto. Mei also became part of the alliance forged by Teresa and Anti-Entropy.
Okay.
And together they fought their way into the headquarters of Sheiksal itself. While battle raged, Sirin began to stir in her slumber. The second Herrscher gradually assumed control over Kiana's body and summoned a horde of Honkai beasts. To help clear the way to the possessed Kiana, Teresa decided to remove the heart bomb from Mei. Mei was grateful for Teresa's trust. Armed with the power of the Herrscher within, she easily defeated numerous enemies. But all her struggles were in vain.
Because of that.
When the rebels stepped into the heart of Sheiksal, Sirin's persona had already succeeded in fully possessing Kiana.
Oh, that's
A
why.
terrible battle
Okay, I got it.
Sirin tore away the Gem of Conquest from Mei's body and acquired even greater powers. The brutal removal of the Herrscher core also took Mei out of the fight. Just when all hope was lost,
Imagine, like,
Himeko entered into the fray and bravely fought
taking
Sirin.
off something
Her
from your
selfless
heart.
fight gave everyone the time they needed to escape. Teresa and the exhausted
I
rebels
remember that.
withdrew
So
from Sheiksal.
sad.
They failed to stop Otto
So
and Sirin
sad.
and became fugitives on the run. The Battle of
That
Sheiksal
was
was
like
yet another blow
one
in
of the
Mei's life.
saddest,
She couldn't
like,
save her best friend. Sirin
anime
even took
stories
Mei's
I ever
core,
saw.
gaining greater powers to wreak havoc on the entire planet. And in the face of such an enemy, Mei's only option was to flee. Having been on the run for 4 months, Teresa came across witness reports of Kiana at Arc City, located in Shenzhou. Teresa,
Shenzhou
Bronya,
was
and
like
Mei tried contacting an
Chinese city.
intel dealer named Grey Serpent. Instead, they came across the Ningyo, a cyborg girl who might know
Ningyo
Kiana's
is like a
whereabouts.
doll in
But
Japanese.
Sheiksal's agent Rita suddenly appeared and defeated the 3 fugitives. They were forced to retreat with the Ningyo. The bad news was that the Ningyo no longer had any useful data after
She's
being formatted
pretty.
by Rita.
She's
Mei,
pretty.
who felt she had been performing poorly
liked
in
her.
battle, asked Dr. Tesla to make her an augmented battle suit to work better with her residual Herrscher powers. Meanwhile, the fugitives also decided to split their forces in 2. Teresa would respond to Kokolia's request and head to the Deep, located in the Pacific, to retrieve the Gem of Desire. Mei and Tesla would return to AE headquarters with the Helios to repair the Ningyo for data salvaging and locate Kiana's whereabouts.
Okay, so they are
While
searching
Mei and
for
Tesla
Kiana.
worked on the Ningyo,
Trying to
the
save
cyborg
her.
suddenly conveyed a message from Rita. Rita revealed that Kiana was indeed in Arc City to investigate a mysterious serpent-backed company. Kiana even agreed to form a temporary alliance with Rita. But Rita soon walked into a world serpent trap and lost her S-rank Valkyrie powers. Kiana was also captured by the world serpent. With little options left, Rita thus decided to call Mei for support. Though suspicious of Rita, Mei would not give up any chance of reuniting with Kiana and went back to Arc City eventually.
So the
Mei was
girl
also
that I like,
surprised
she's
that
kind
Rita
of
did
like
not lie
emo.
and even tried working with her. Mei did get what she wanted, reuniting with Kiana. She asked her friend to return to the Hyperion.
I think they
However,
like each other more
Kiana
than
chose
just
to stay in
friendship,
Arc
but
to
it's
stop
okay.
the world serpent from
I don't
creating
know
an
much about
artificial
this story,
Honkai
though.
eruption in the city. A world serpent mercenary named Raven tried to stop Kiana, and the 2 girls fought her off, only to realize that Raven succeeded in delaying them.
She was just
A wounded
trying to...
Mei could only see her friend tapping into the forbidden void powers to send the detonating Honkai reactor away from the city and save millions of people.
I think I saw this
Kiana
trailer.
passed out from overexerting herself and fell.
Yeah, I saw that.
Her
It
deadly
was so
descent
cool.
was stopped by a tree that sprouted from a lance. Mei rushed forward to save her friend, only to find out that Durandal, the most powerful S-rank Valkyrie of Sheiksal, had arrived first. And this Valkyrie was ordered to take Kiana away. No matter how hard Mei fought, she couldn't stop Durandal. Once again,
Durandal's
the
really
cruel
pretty.
hands of fate tore them apart. The attempted
Again?
reunion with Kiana at Arc City only deepened Mei's angst. She was too weak to stop Sheiksal, and her weakness allowed them to take Kiana. Though imprisoned at Sheiksal's Vemur Labs in North Africa, Kiana managed to escape during the chaos caused by a world serpent attack. She used her void powers again and teleported herself to Nagazora, the place where she first met May.
Okay, so she got it.
Dr.
She
Tesla
got out.
detected the energy fluctuations from Kiana's teleportation, and thus the fugitives headed toward the city that was destroyed by the Honkai eruption 3 years ago.
The bomb, right?
May and Tesla arrived at the city ruins and tried looking for Kiana. Instead, they found scavenging children living in shelters who survived the Honkai disaster.
Ooh.
And the sensei protector of these children who helped build their shelters was none other than Raven, the world serpent mercenary that May fought in Arc City. When facing rising sea levels and Honkai resurgence, and also due to her need to protect the children, May agreed to set aside hostilities and join forces with Raven. Together, they located Kiana's whereabouts and even defeated the Honkai dragon Benares that was trying to protect its queen.
That dragon looks so
Then
cool.
Raven revealed her intent for coming to Nagazora.
Looks tough
She
to
wanted
be.
to kill Kiana and end the threat of the Honkai she poses. Nevertheless, Raven gave May a chance to stop herself. May drew her blade without hesitation and ended her brief alliance with Raven.
Yeah.
But without her
kill
Herrscher gem, May was no match against Raven. The mercenary even scoffed at her, calling her no different than an ordinary human. May knew that Raven would kill Kiana once she was defeated. She decided to sacrifice herself and started concentrating Honkai energy within her. Raven was shocked.
Super
She just
Saiyajin
witnessed a
vibe.
coreless ex-Herrscher releasing a sudden burst of terrible power. She therefore allowed May to take Kiana away. After enduring many battles and defeats, May was finally able to bring Kiana home.
Finally.
But then Dr. Tesla told her the bad news. The 3 Herrscher cores within Kiana had overloaded her body with Honkai infection. She had less than 2 months to live. May found herself utterly helpless after hearing the bad news. She also found that Kiana had lost several senses and could not even taste the food she cooked. The World Serpent, however, was well aware of the relationship between May and Kiana. Kevin Kaslana, the sire of the World Serpent, met May in person. He was a previous era survivor and lauded as their most powerful warrior.
Okay.
Kevin promised May that the World Serpent could
Are
save
we gonna
Kiana's
play with
life,
male
and that would
characters
require
too?
May to simply become a Honkai Herrscher once again.
Only the
Once May became a Herrscher, one of the Herrscher cores infecting Kiana would dissipate and reappear in May instead, greatly reducing Kiana's infection. But May would have to leave Kiana and join the World Serpent to ensure that their grand project succeeds.
Yeah,
And when
I don't
Project
think
Stigma
I would
successfully
accept-
reforms the
accept
human
this.
race and defeats the Honkai, Kiana would no longer have to sacrifice
Would
herself
you?
to protect the world. To save her dying friend, May accepted the Serpent's offer without hesitation. And shortly after making her choice, a channel into the Sea of Quanta suddenly appeared in Nagazora. It turned out that Otto had fired the second divine key to create a channel right through the sea. And this was only possible because of the deal that Kevin and Otto made a few days ago. Kevin told May that she should take this chance to absorb Honkai energy seeping from Nagazora and complete her metamorphosis. Everything that began in Nagazora would end in the same city. 3 years ago, Kiana stopped May from becoming a Herrscher, and the two girls became best friends. And now, May has decided to become a Herrscher once more, just to save Kiana. When the transformation is complete, May will have to betray her friends and join forces with the enemy. But that's the price she needs to pay. Entering the darkness is the only way she can return Kiana to bliss.
Okay, I got it.
We're happy that you managed to stay with us and reach the end of this video.
Okay.
We would also like to know what you think about the story so far and what you would like to
I'm
see
loving
next.
it. It's
Background
so
history of the
complex.
factions such as the World Serpent, Shixal, and Anti-Entropy? Or background stories of characters on your
I need to
Valkyrie
know a
roster?
little bit more about
Perhaps even secret technologies of the previous era. Do leave your opinions in the comments section.
Okay.
We'll see you next time.
Okay, I won't do in the comment section. I will do here in front of you guys. So, like, there's a lot of things going on. But I'm understanding little by little. Okay, I got May's story. But one thing that I'm not understanding very well is Otto. Because the previous video that I saw, the first time he appeared was a long time ago. And why he's still alive? But besides that, everything is getting like clear to me. Like Honkai's story is so complex. It's so beautiful because it's just a game, but they put so much details into it. It's amazing. Let's go to the third one. Okay, so now let's go to the third one. That is Fuha's story. Let's go.
Greetings, Captains. Welcome back to the Honkai Operations Center. As
They
time
should put
flows forward,
Portuguese subtitles
Fuhua has
though,
shaped
but
the
it's
history
okay.
under different names and identities. The 8th Herrscher, who calls herself Fuhua, has now appeared before us. But who is she really? What has Fuhua undergone in 50,000 years?
I hope she's a good one.
Let's take a
because she's
closer
like-
look at the long
she
and
looks like
solitary life of a
Kazuha.
warrior. Fuhua
I
was
love
born in the lower
Kazuha.
district of the
So
previous
I
era
probably
metropolis.
love her too.
She grew up practicing martial arts after her father and lived a disciplined life. Due to her humble origin, plain appearance, and straight, reserved personality, Fuhua was a loner when she studied in Sapphire. Only until she saved a classmate during a zombie attack did she gain the acceptance of those around her and learn to warm up to people.
Got
But
it.
just when she was beginning to envision a bright future, fate forced her on a path that she had never imagined. The Honkai impact tore what she knew apart. The city was burned to the ground and her family and friends were killed. Fuhua fled and was saved by Moss Squad 5 leader Himiko. In a world where one could not survive alone, Fuhua could no longer afford to dream and was only left with the mission to eliminate Honkai. Fuhua joined Moth as a soldier,
girl.
but she was still too weak to save anything. Cities fell. Billions of lives perished. Her savior, Himiko, died in the hands of her comrades after transforming into a Herrscher. She only had the passion to
It's
defeat
Himeko,
Honkai, not the power to realize it.
the one that we
In
know.
the face of an overwhelming enemy, was running away the best thing she could do? Fuhua did not accept her fate. Burning with a grudge against her fate, Fuhua was reborn after challenging death. In an experiment that was deemed lethal, Igor miraculously fused with her and transformed her into a mantis. And
Mantis.
the user of Key of Domination, as well as Fan Huang Down, the mantis brought home one victory after another, until the final Herrscher descended. Humanity stood no chance in the decisive war. The few that survived forfeited their civilization. They put themselves into cryogenic sleep so they could start anew when the time arrives. And so Fuhua's story enters the next chapter. After 10
Okay.
millennia of sleep, Fuhua was awakened as the executor of Project Ember,
She slept.
whose mission was to guide the people of the new era in developing their civilization and resisting Honkai.
Kazuha.
Fuhua was not alone in this. She was surrounded by lifelong friends who genuinely cared for her and wanted her to take back her life.
Oh,
Yet
they're
she
so
lost all of them in a
cute.
judgment-class Honkai disaster. Fuhua became alone again. As a mantis, she is immortal.
Damn it.
As the user
That's
of
so
Feng
sad,
Huang
like,
Down,
people
her
that you
memories
love,
last
that you
forever.
care,
In
they
Fuhua's
all
near
die.
everlasting life,
That's
as
so
fleeting
sad.
as her interpersonal encounters may be, the inevitable parting that ensued would still scar her for life. With her last friend gone, Fuhua
She's so
closed off her
lonely.
heart. She secluded herself from the earthly world, carried on the mission of eliminating Honkai like the programmed robot.
Exactly.
No mercy for the corrupted became her sole
She
code
doesn't
of
have
conduct.
anything to lose.
She only
you
cared
know?
for the mortals' corruption, not their lives.
Everybody she cared
In
died.
1458 AD, Fuhua
So,
founded
yeah.
the School of Taishuan at Mount Taishuan, Shenzhou. It was to safeguard Shenzhou and cleanse the world of Honkai. The School of Taishuan, which only had 7 disciples, dominated the martial arts world with the Edge of Taishuan, a secret sword fighting style that could channel Honkai energy. To the ordinary people, Fuhua was as untouchable as a celestial, and hence was named Phoenix. In 1475 AD, on the Kipchak steppes in Central Asia, Fuhua single-handedly trounced Chicxul's elite forces and their strongest Valkyrie, Kalin Kaslana. This
the one
battle
that looks
also
like
led Fuhua's
Kiana.
first encounter with Otto Apocalypse, her
Okay.
lifelong rival. In the next year, for reasons unknown, her 7 disciples mutinied and razed Mount Taishuan to the ground. Fuhua was grievously injured, having lost her full power and immortality. Fuhua temporarily withdrew from the world. Since she could not
Okay.
protect Shenzhou in a powerless state, she made a pact with Otto. Fuhua joined Chicxul and worked for Otto. In return, Otto pledged to watch over Shenzhou in her stead.
Okay.
In 2000 AD, the second Honkai eruption brought total destruction. It was later known as the most devastating Honkai disaster of the current era. In a few days, multiple major cities were destroyed, resulting in millions of casualties. In this war, Chicxul and the anti-entropy fought back in full force. Fuhua was
Right,
dispatched
because
to subdue the
that's what
Herrschers
I'm not
as a
getting. Like
Chicxul
Chicxul,
Valkyrie.
it feels like
In
good.
Fuhua's long life, She has never ceased rethinking
Like
what fighting
organization?
means, so she may one day slay all Hershers and eliminate Honkai.
Because they are against
By
the
then,
Honkai,
she
right?
had found the way of defeating a Hersher. With
Okay.
unparalleled combat experience and Feng Huang Down's power, Fu Hua
Whoa,
overwhelmed the
like-
pseudo-Hersher of fire
That looks
and
badass.
temporarily suppressed the second Hersher who possessed 6 Hersher cores. Yet even with such nigh immeasurable power, she could not defeat the second Hersher, who was under the protection of the will of Honkai.
Okay.
At the critical moment, Fu Hua sacrificed Feng Huang Down and her memories to activate Feng Huang Down's first power.
Like she
Taishuan
lost her
Eminence.
memories?
It severely wounded the second Hersher and cut off her connection with the will of Honkai, creating an
Okay.
opening for humanity to turn the tables. Fighting this
Okay.
war cost Fu Hua her memories and most of her power. Over a
What the-
decade later, Fu
Guys.
Hua enrolled at St. Freya as an undercover agent. She became the class
Okay.
monitor of Kiana's class to surveil the activity of the Hersher of the Void inside Kiana. Although she approached Kiana and her friends with an
She looks
ulterior
so,
motive,
like,
she regained
nice,
long-lost
but
friendships and bonds in a campus life
She
full
has
of
been
joy
through
and
a lot,
laughter.
guys.
She carried out Otto's orders while secretly helping out Kiana and her friends to protect an addictive yet
She was like
fragile
a double
balance of
agent.
fate. However, the mission of eliminating Honkai ultimately made her side with the other end. She took away Kiana and helped Otto rouse the Hersher of the Void. Little did she know that Otto did not play by the contract. He only roused the Hersher for his selfish desires, not to protect others. To keep Fu Hua out of his plan, he shot her. To stop Otto's plan, Fu Hua activated Feng Huang Down's 0th power before dying, to transfer her sentience partially into the feathers and bind her sentience with Kiana's soul. Feng Huang Down, which bore Fu Hua's sentience, led Himiko to the power that could confront the Hersher of the Void and provide the serum that could quell the Honkai energy inside Kiana.
Oh, got it.
When Bronya was trapped in Grey's Serpent's Mind Labyrinth, Feng Huang Down appeared in time to help her escape. After the Hersher of the Void begot a Honkai eruption, Kiana sunk into self-blame and loss. It was Fu Hua's sentience that supported her and taught her how to harness the Hersher power. At last, to protect Kiana, Fu Hua's sentience burned herself out in the battle against Kevin and fell into a slumber. However, that was not the end of her story.
Her story,
After the
honestly,
Shixal
is
battle, Otto repaired her body, only to
It's the
revive a
saddest
Fu Hua
one
that was
of
not the
all
fighter
the
who upheld her
Valkyries.
mission above all else and abolished her own desires. She had the looks of Fu Hua, but uttered frivolous, arrogant, and impetuous words. She had the memories of Fu Hua, but could not understand the motives underpinning them. She loathed Honkai as much as Fu Hua,
just like a
but she was no different from Honkai
Psycho.
in action. Purely driven by a desire for destruction, she destroyed. She killed Otto's clone and demolished half of
Otto's
Shixal's
clone, damn it, I
headquarters.
thought it was the real one.
To vent her desire for destruction, she fought Durandal and Kevin to trick Fu Hua's sentience in Feng Huang Down into submitting to her. She varnished over her motive time and again. To win the trust of Kiana and Bronya, she lured them into her memories to elicit their sympathy. In the end, she was not Fu Hua, but the 8th
Yeah.
Hersher born from her memories. Perhaps to the 8th Hersher, this story that perpetuated itself for 50,000 years is an elaborated, pitiable tragedy.
Yes, exactly.
The Fu Hua
So
that constrained
sad.
herself and lived solely for her mission was nothing but a failure. She wanted to become
Aw,
a better
don't
Fu
say
Hua.
that.
Perhaps the girl bathing in the sun on the grass 50,000 years ago would have had the same
50,000
idea had
years
she
ago.
had learned the story of her life. It is a life that has seen too many betrayals, lies,
Yeah.
and sacrifices.
Sacrifices.
However, it is also a life that shaped Fu Hua into the remarkable fighter that her friends believe in and rely upon.
Yeah, but even so,
What does the
so
future
sad.
have in store for her? We will find out together.
Guys, I love this story, but at the same time, like I said, it's so sad. She has been through a lot that I can't even put in words. Like, he stayed for 50,000 years, suffering. That's her story. That is so sad. That's so sad, but it feels like she is a very, very important character of this game. and it feels like she's cool to play. She really looks like a badass one. So yeah, I hope she can have a more like bright and happier future. Let's go to the next one. So this one is Kiana's story, Honkai Chronicles, Kiana Castellana. So I'm super excited because I think she's my favorite one so far, that I saw the cinematics and I just really loved her personality, her design, everything is so cool. So I'm excited to know more about her story. Let's go.
A few years after the second eruption in 2000, a girl came into this imperfect world in an experiment pod. She had no name, only a cold serial number, K423.
So Otto created her.
K423 was created by Otto via splicing Kiana Castellana's genes and that from Siren, the Hersher of the Void, together. The Hersher core attained consciousness in the new body, and she was expected to become a human with Hersher powers. In 2007, Siegfried Castellana attempted to abduct K423 in secret, but was intercepted by Schicksal in his escape.
Why he wanted to?
His biological daughter went missing afterward. Siegfried adopted K423 and raised her as his own, but was unwilling to name her after his own daughter.
Got it.
That was until one day, to protect the injured Siegfried, K423 took up arms to confront a Honkai beast in his place. A tender soul defied fate for the first time in order to protect her loved one. Touched by her action, Siegfried decided to name her Kiana Castellana. He made a promise to her. As the descendants of House Castellana, it was an honored tradition for them to fight for their loved ones. On this day, the girl received her name from her father, and she set foot on a path deviating from her written fate.
She didn't have an eye?
However, fate had other plans.
Okay.
In 2010, the latent Hersher persona awoke. Blazes of anger scorched the world that had just opened up to her. To protect Kiana, Siegfried used Judgment of Shamash to suppress the Hersher of the Void. But as a result, he was severely injured. Siegfried realized that he would inevitably rouse the Hersher persona again. To protect Kiana, he left her. The girl was worthy of love. Those who loved her could do anything for her. But in the girl's eyes, it was her very existence that brought them endless sufferings and miseries.
No, it's not your fault.
Nevertheless, she did not forget the promise with her father and continued to believe in the good of the world. In the Honkai-stricken Nagazora, when Raiden Mei, who had become the Hersher of Thunder, turned against her, Kiana still reached out to her. When they were fleeing Nagazora, Himiko rescued Kiana and Mei and took them to Saint Freya. Kiana's troubled fate was finally calmed for a brief moment. On the campus, she met friends who were like family and made the solemn vow to fight for all that is beautiful in the world. She wanted to stay, but a cruel twist would soon break her hopes.
They didn't have a lot of like problems in that time. Everybody was happy.
Dark seeds germinated in the shadow of the peaceful years. The other sentience inside her preyed on all the good in her life once more by encroaching on her cognition in her dreams. It was Kiana's pining for a mother's love that made her awakening possible. She created illusions to make Kiana believe that she saved her mother from sacrificing herself to end the second eruption. When she realized the great joy she experienced was elusive, she broke down and let the Hersher persona take over. Being taken to the Schicksal HQ by Fuhua, she was confined in the same bleak experiment pod, just as when she was born. Only this time, Otto, who witnessed her rebirth, wished to see the Hersher of the Void return. Just as Otto expected, the Saint Freya group revolted and attacked the Schicksal HQ with anti-entropy to rescue Kiana. In fact, he wanted them to gamble everything for Kiana. Their deep love and the ensuing sacrifices would stimulate Kiana's emotions to help her overcome the Hersher persona, so she could become a human with Hersher powers. The Hersher of the Void achieved complete awakening and pulverized Saint Freya and anti-entropy in a display of power.
Okay, I understand now. Okay.
In the end, To save Kiana, Himeko donned the Godsbane battle suit for Million Night Eclipse.
This one.
She defeated Hersher of the Void
See,
and
yes.
injected the Spear of Destiny, a Honkai neutralizing serum, into Kiana at the expense of her life. Himeko fell into the imaginary space.
Yeah, this one is tough. That scene is really tough. Yeah.
Kiana might be a Hersher, but her friends and teachers still loved her and believed in her as much. Yet their goodwill was too heavy to bear. Kiana wandered in Ark City after waking up from the nightmare. Honkai beasts and zombies hunted her. The whispers of the Hersher tortured her. She wanted to run, but had nowhere to run. Those pains and sufferings are predestined. She was test subject K423, the vessel of a Hersher, and the root cause of the world's and her loved ones' miseries. Would the world be a better place had she died? When Kiana was prepared to die with the Hersher inside, Fuha's sentience in her mind stopped her and the Hersher from reviving.
It must be so.
Kiana finally remembered that
hard to live
Himeko
in
sacrificed herself
that
to save her
situation.
because as her teacher, Himeko believed in her potential to change the world. Kiana snapped out of grief and loss. To repay Himeko's faith, she will continue fighting her ill fate.
Yeah.
With Fuha's help, Kiana learned how to contain the Hersher persona and utilize Hersher powers. She became a rogue hero that fought to save Ark City from destruction. Kiana discovered that the Honkai disasters plaguing Ark City were not related to the Hersher of the Void. They were the work of a shady organization known as the World Serpent. All traces pointed to a dreadful ploy, Project Stigma. The catastrophe caused by it would level Ark City to the ground. Kiana must transfer the Honkai bomb planted by World Serpent to save Ark City. She made it. Even though the Hersher persona and
That's
Honkai
why
were
she's my
eating her
favorite
away,
one.
she did not fail Himeko. To change this imperfect world, she became the meteor that ripped Ark City's darkness open and propelled the bomb out of the atmosphere, which rewrote
Yeah,
the
I
cruel
remember
fate of
this
this
scene.
city.
So cool. That's so cool. She didn't die, right? Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think she died.
The unconscious Kiana was taken to
yeah.
the Schicksal
Yeah,
North
I
African
forgot the
lab
tree.
by Durandal.
Durandal.
Otto needed a Kiana who had harnessed Hersher
Got it.
powers to activate the second divine key. Sick of being manipulated, she broke out from the lab
Yeah.
and escaped Kevin's pursuit under Fuha's cover. Kiana returned to the ruins of Nagazora. She was ready to meet her end in the place where she first met everyone she cared about.
That's so sad.
She knew she had little time left as the Honkai core continued to corrupt her. To bring back Kiana, Mei set foot in Nagazora. Kiana had not stopped imagining how she would reunite with her friends once. Yet she could not seize the chance when it finally came. Honkai was growing thick in Nagazora. She had to step forward to protect the world and her friends, even if it would cost her her life. She had always been like this. She would laugh off the worst injuries. She saved the world, saved everyone, but kept the
I
pain
love
to
her
herself.
personality.
She was killing
She's always
herself
so
to protect
bright.
the good in
Even-
the world.
Look,
But she had
she's
forgotten
smiling,
that
you
she
know?
also meant the whole world to her loved ones.
Yeah.
To save Kiana, Mei made a pact with Kevin. A new gem of conquest solidified in her body. She became the Hersher of Thunder again and joined World Serpent by choice. Mei knew her best friend would never accept her choice, but she could not
Yeah.
create a future for her dearest if she held on to her past.
Got it. That's the end? That's the end?
After Mei left,
Oh no.
Kiana and Bronya went to Mount Taishuan to find the
Where's
ways of
Fuhua?
mastering Hersher powers recorded by Fuhua, without knowing the Hersher of Sentience had already woken. In the illusion created by the Hersher of Sentience, Fuhua's lonely life bound by her mission, flashed
the
before
evil
Kiana's
one.
eyes. Fuhua planned to sacrifice herself again to seal the Hersher of Sentience. Kiana could not accept a fate that exchanged their lives for the greater good. It was Himeko's. It was Mei's. It was Fuhua's. It was hers once, and it was not the happiness they wanted. To end this wretched story the way they truly wanted, Kiana stopped fighting alone. She chose to believe in her friends. In the theater of domination, built by the Legion Hersher, she confronted her fate for the last time. She accepted her fate and who she was. She and the Hersher of the Void were both continuations of Siren's persona. The Hersher of the Void was Siren's hatred toward the world manifested. She was the other possibility, born from Siren's desire for love. The countless hearts that loved and helped her made this possibility a reality, turning her from test subject K423 into a Valkyrie who fights for all that is beautiful in the world, into Kiana Kaslana, who leads everyone forward.
I don't want to cry for like a game.
As for where her path leads to, we will soon find out.
Oh, guys, she's my favorite one. She's my favorite one. Oh, so pretty her story, guys, and like the other ones is so sad as well. Like, why did they have to suffer that much? I didn't even have idea that she was made in a lab, and the story, the first one with her father, is so beautiful. So beautiful. That story with her father, the story with Mei, the story with Himeko. Oh my gosh, Himeko. I can't honestly understand why this game did that to our heart, because Himeko probably is one of the favorite ones of a lot of people, and she died. And honestly, in like 5 trailers that I watched, 3 of them, there is the same scene, that very sad scene where Himeko died, and like why, Honkai, do you do that with us? Why do you want to remember that sad scene all the time? Let's go to the next one. I think the next one will be the Otto story. Okay, so the next one will be Equinox Crusade. Equinox, right? The Journey of Durandal. Let's go. I saw her before. She was really pretty. I really liked her design. Oh, really pretty.
2008年，少女
Oh,
从
in
病床中
Chinese.
醒来，
Glad we have
面
subtitles.
前是一个和自己同样有着金色头发的男子。
Otto.
男子名为奥托·阿波卡利斯，是少女的主治医生，也是天命的
Oh,
主
he was a
教。
doctor.
在众人
She's
束手无
screwed.
策之时，是奥托
She's
将少女
screwed.
从鬼门关拯救回来。但据说，治疗带来的副作用让少女失去了所有的记忆。在这名医生的引导下，少女为自己挑选了一个新的名字——比安卡·阿塔吉娜。
Bianca.
那时的少女并不知道自己的命运已经发生了怎样的变动，更不知道眼前这个金发男子隐隐密谋着的惊天计划。Kiana Kaslana， 这是少女原本的名字。
What?
作为齐格菲·卡斯兰娜和
Wait,
斯
wait,
蒂
she-
尔·的爱情结晶，少女在出生前就被寄予了种种祝福与厚望。
Wait.
但第2次崩坏夺走了少女的一切。Cecilia 在那
She
场
was
战斗中
Kiana？
不幸牺牲，而7年之后，因为一场与空之旅者有关的意外，少女自己遭遇了开头的那段故事。她成为了实质上的孤儿。在孤儿院那段原本不好不坏的日子里，比安卡遇见了天命女武神冲锋队的队长拉格纳罗德布洛克。即使经历过无数痛苦与牺牲，拉格纳依旧开朗阳光，就像一位传播着美好的天使。可在2010年冬天的西伯利亚，这位如夏日般可爱温婉的老师，永远地离开了世界。对故人最好的纪念，就是沿着他们开辟的道路继续前进下去。为了完成拉格纳老师所未能实现的使命，比安卡下定决心，要成为天命最强的女武神。在参加天命女武神准入测试时，比安卡曾与丽塔擦肩而过。
Ah, he
尽管
died.
那时2人并未
I
相
remember
识，
her. She was
但奇
helping
妙的
Otto.
命运 终究还是借着那次量子之海的任务，把他们联系在了一起。2012年2月29日，借由格尼乌斯系统，12岁的比安卡与奥托为其配置的副官丽塔一起前往量子之海中的某个世界炮。进入量子之海后，在与卡里多尼亚号的船长莎士比亚交流的过程中，比安卡得知，在这个世界炮里，欧洲大陆被神秘的阿斯加德之壁围住，任何触碰到障壁的生物都会瞬间灰飞烟灭。更糟糕的是，阿斯加德之壁在不断向外扩张，将世界吞噬殆尽也只是时间的问题。莎士比亚曾试图用圣剑幽兰戴尔破坏障壁，却以失败告终。蕴含神秘力量的7颗宝石也散落到世界各地。为了拯救这个世界，他希望比安卡可以重新驱动这把圣剑，破坏阿斯加德之壁。于是，比安卡与丽塔成为了卡里多尼亚号的乘客，和莎士比亚一行人踏上了寻回7颗宝石的冒险旅途，遭遇了形形色色的事件，体验了各种各样的风土人情。
Oh, that looks cool.
最终，比安卡找到了所有的宝石，解决了阿斯加德之壁的问题。但即便如此，世界炮也仍然面临着解体的危机。好在卡里多尼亚号的冒险同伴薛定谔博士急中生智，指出可以借助圣剑幽兰戴尔的力量，将整个世界炮繁衍进比安卡体内，由比安卡从外部世界保护它的完整。只要比安卡还活着，这个世界炮就还能作为一个整体存在。但是，这也意味着比安卡从此要背负起守护另一个世界的责任。不过，比安卡并没有因此而产生犹豫。他说：“女武神的人生，从来不都是这样的吗？为了我所喜欢的人，为了这些人所喜欢的更多的人，为了所有让人能够称之为人的人，他们曾经使我获得了感动，而我也愿意献上自己的一切来守护他们。”而在任务成功回到天命后，少女也在自己的名字中加入了幽兰戴尔这个部分，以示自己的意志。
Got it.
将体内的世界炮接入虚数之术，防止他的命运与自己这个保护者过度绑定，从此成为了幽兰戴尔的一大目标。而奥托也自然将这一切看在了眼里。
He's an asshole, but he's really handsome.
为了承担起这份责任，不负那整个世界的重托，幽兰戴尔从此在一点一滴的事情上都会严格的要求自己。为了成为更强大的战士，他不断磨练自己的性格，努力让自己变得冷静、理性，甚至从一个咋咋呼呼、有些虚荣的女孩，变成了某种在旁人眼中不易接近的存在。但正因为如此，幽兰戴尔不负众望地成为了天命有史以来最年轻也是最强的 S 级。
Oh, I wanna play with her. She looks badass.
这件事发生在2015年，幽兰戴尔名义上15岁的时候，也正是借着这个机会，奥托将创生之剑黑渊白花交付给了她。虽然此刻的少女还不知道，这柄武器对她而言究竟意味着怎样一种厚重的传承。同年，奉奥托的命令，幽兰戴尔和丽塔一起前往伦敦，成功带回第二神之剑千界一城。而在参与第二神之剑的启动实验时，幽兰戴尔被一位名为苏的先行者拉入了虚拟芥子世界炮内，被迫参与苏以自身经历创作的试炼。在这一过程中，幽兰戴尔简单而直接的热情唤醒了因为与凯文的争执而深陷消沉的苏。出于对这种真挚之情的信任，苏决定把自己的救世计划交由幽兰戴尔转授奥托，并将须弥芥子托付给了幽兰戴尔，帮助他更自如地控制体内世界炮的力量。这也是不灭星矛的完整由来。从此之后，幽兰戴尔就开始配合奥托，一步步推进借用千界一城连通虚数之术的实验。可是实验屡屡陷入瓶颈，为了取得更大的进展，奥托需要妥善利用空之律者，甚至是凯文的力量加以辅助。2016年，随着空之律者在奥托操控下重临于世，整个世界进入了多事之秋。2017年，收到丽塔递交的烈月报告的幽兰戴尔，为了解救丽塔、回收 Kiana 而来到了天穹市。当时 Kiana 已经为了拯救天穹市而耗尽了自己的所有力量，正无力地从空中坠落。于是幽兰戴尔使用黑渊白花 催生出巨树接住了坠落的 Kiana，以自己的方式将她保护起来。此时牙医赶到，他想要阻止幽兰戴尔带走 Kiana， 却因实力差距悬殊，无能为力。在确认丽塔的安全后，幽兰戴尔将 Kiana 带回了北非的维努尔实验室。
It's good, right?
对当时的幽兰戴尔来说，掌握空之律者力量的 Kiana
Even though
是
she
奥托
works
进一步
for
实验的
Otto.
关键，而那时的他与 Kiana 之间也尚未建立起足够的信任。后来，由于实验室遭到世界蛇的突袭，这对姐妹的第一次正式会面便在一片混乱中草草收场。但对奥托来说，这次事件不仅让他确认了空之律者的能力，还更进一步与世界蛇的领袖凯文达成了历史性的合作协议。当时的幽兰戴尔不可能知道，至此，奥托复活卡莲的布局已经准备就绪，他只需要静静等待一个合适的时机，去一步步实现这个会将所有人卷入其中的计划。之后，经历了珊瑚岛事件和石之律者事件。
Okay.
2017年6月，天命收到了一组奇怪的报告，他们看似毫无关联，但背后却都有崩坏的影子。在奥托遭遇了石之律者后就一直失踪的情况下，代管天命的幽兰戴尔决定与密商合作，将相关资料毫无保留地同步给密商，共同对抗这一系列诡异事件的幕后黑手——千人律者。
Oh, she started working with them.
而在打败千人律者后的某一天，奥托突然回到了天命，准备已久的他迫不及待地正式启动了把世界炮接回虚
Like
绪之
Otto
术。
is like the
无论如何，
biggest
这都意味着少女有了真正的机会，
asshole in
去
Honkai
完成幽
story.
兰戴尔这
Got
个
it.
名字代表着的重大使命。虽然从结果而言，目前仍没有办法实现世界炮独立的最终目标，但在老朋友石宇绮罗、尼古拉斯和圣剑小优的帮助下，少女找到了可以与人共同分担体内世界炮的方法。少女终于不用再独自一人承担守护世界命运的责任了。另一方面，这个实验的成功也意味着奥托的计划终于可以进入最终的实施
He
阶
colored
段。
his hair?
即使面对自己
Looks a little bit
500
different.
年来最棒的学生幽兰戴尔，奥托也从未将计划全盘托出过。
Yeah.
与此相反，他恰恰要利用幽兰戴尔认为他奥托也打算拯救世界的态度。他派幽兰戴尔于克洛斯城镇
So she
迎接
was
德丽莎
only
一行人，
working for
并
him
以此为
because
契机，
she
在台前
trusted
幕后
him.
不断
She
使用
thought he
迹
was
象
a
反
good
刺激
one.
他们。
Got it.
最终，当幽兰戴尔发现奥托即便牺牲整个世界也要复活卡莲的时候，他决定对奥托
Yeah,
发起
I
不惜诉诸武力的质询。
Yeah.
这是幽兰戴尔第一次公然违抗主教的命令。将体内的世界炮托付给丽塔后，他只身前往教堂，与奥托当面对
Yeah,
质。
yeah.
虽然幽兰戴尔更希望打破砂锅问到底，弄清奥托真正的想法，但奥托并没有给他这样的机会，而是主动挑起了战斗。在与奥托的战斗中，幽兰戴尔在武力上胜过一筹，一时击败了奥托。不过，奥托也借机完成了伪神的升华，并一举将幽兰戴尔流放到了卡斯拉纳的圣痕空间，计划以借刀杀人之计，让幽兰戴尔在无意中帮助自己清理道路。复杂、混沌，没有尽头。在圣痕空间中，无数的记忆碎片几乎将少女淹没。而在最终知晓自己身世的那个瞬间，少女内心
So
却因为一
sad.
些并
So
非自己
she's
的
the
缘
real
故而
Kiana.
五味杂陈。她想起了那个人生中充满遗憾的齐格飞，想起了那个继承了 Kiana 之名的成熟战士。
Wait.
她自己早已能坦然接受任何命运。
Yeah.
但如果那些真相会影响到自己所认可、钦佩的人们，那就是另一回事了。或许，少女的人生始于谎言，少女的行
Don't
动
worry, girl.
或许
He's
始
lying
终
to
在
all
内
of
主教
us.
的计划之
In
中。
the beginning, I thought he was a
但
good
少女
one
从来
too.
不是谁的棋子，
It's okay.
她所做的每一个决定都出于自己的意志，走过的每
I
一
thought he
段
was
路
good.
都是生命中重要的瑰宝。
He wanted to fight the Honkai.
无论使用哪个名字，是比安卡，是幽兰戴尔，还是卡斯兰娜和沙尼亚，少女都是那个满怀热血，为世界上所有美好而战的女武神。
Oh, I love her.
现在如此，
Oh, I love
将来也是如
her.
此。 少女心中没有迷茫，因为她相信
I love
自
her,
己会
guys.
始终勇敢地走下去。在未来的旅程中，少女将继续坚守自己的使命，直到人类战胜
That's so
崩坏
cool.
的
It's
那
a
一天。
horse. She rides a horse. That's so cool.
以及那一天之后的每一天。
Oh, it's her and Hita. I don't know how to pronounce Hita. Let me understand a little bit more. So she is Kiana's sister? Right? Because they have the same dad. Comment down below, help me out with that. I think it is, right? They are sisters. I just loved her story, guys. But I'm super excited to know more about Otto's story because he is a freaking asshole. He is manipulating everybody. He's lying to everybody, pretending he is a good one. And at least in the end, she discovered that he's evil. So yeah, good for her. Good for her that she can get out of this toxic relationship. So let's go to the next one. So now it's time for us to watch the last chronicle, and it's Otto Apocalypse. So probably we will understand when in his story he started becoming an asshole. Let's go. Or if he was like that since he was a child, but I don't think so.
Life is but a walking shadow, a clumsy actor gesturing on the stage, who only appears briefly and steps off in silence.
Okay. So he can
Otto
fight you.
Apocalypse, the most pathetic fool alive.
I agree.
He is the revered Schicksal overseer. He is a corrupt, bigoted clown. Over centuries, he once sacrificed lives
Continue.
beyond count for his selfish desires, but also overthrew a decadent reign with people's support. He treated humans as pawns and trampled the value of emotion and life, but treasured Valkyries at the front line and prayed for their triumphant return. Commitment and betrayal, friend and foe, truth and lies. No one has ever seen through him, but to Otto himself, his actions only served one purpose.
What? I want to know.
It all began in an afternoon 500 years ago.
Okay, let's go to the history. Let's go.
Though Otto was born in the three
Oh,
houses,
I thought it was a girl.
he was frail and sickly. He could only craft whimsical
Damn.
inventions, which naturally deprived him of inheritance. His older
like a
brothers
girl.
detested his effort at self-destruction, but no one noticed his inner needs and desires. It was then that a white-haired, blue-eyed girl brightened Otto's cold and dull heart like a ray of sunshine.
Oh.
She praised Otto's work sincerely, expected great inventions from him, and invited him to save the world with her.
Looks like Kiana though.
For the first time in his life,
Everybody
young
looks
Otto
like
felt
him.
recognized. He could be expected. He could be needed. Since that faraway afternoon, everything he did has gained meaning because
Oh,
of her
the cheeks.
validation.
Okay, he got in love. He fell in
But the
love.
twisted fate would not spare them. The rampant plague and the failed crusade tore the prosperity they lived in apart. Power and force were the perfect fuel for greed, turning a shaky faith into the breeding ground for degeneracy. In the turmoil, the lives of the two reached a turning point. Fearing abandonment, Otto chose to disregard ethics and performed experiments on dying patients. He sought findings at all costs. Callan, who could not condone his crime, became a raven at night to spread hope and enact the justice in her heart. But lies were lies. After many operations, Callan discovered the secrets of the human experiments, and Otto exposed himself at the last minute. Before the infinite greed of Schicksal, individual will was nothing. Callan was imprisoned. The cold bars separated the two that were once childhood friends. yet their minds had already drifted further apart. To Callan, the dignity of life was what she had sworn to defend.
Yeah, she was
To
right.
Otto, morality and ethics were only prices to be paid.
Okay,
A loud
so
slap and a conflict of beliefs
course, of
sent them on
course.
completely different paths.
of course I would do that too.
Otto knew that in no way could he stop Callan. He accepted it and helped her escape in silence. After everything settled, Otto was given the key to the library. Although Void Archives used the index permission as a bait in an attempt to possess Otto, Otto did not fall for it. He developed technology with pieces of knowledge, and thus a game that would last centuries began. In the days that followed, Otto searched for Callan while continuing his research and experiments. When he heard
course she
Callan was
ran
in
away.
danger in Yai village,
You're an
he
asshole.
immediately had Oath of Judah delivered, but not the response letter that spoke his loving heart. Meanwhile, Callan sealed the Hersher of corruption in the black box with Oath of Judah, but was severely wounded. She was taken back to Europe by Schicksal for a trial. Callan was faithful and refused to sacrifice for family feuds, and thus was sentenced to hanging. Otto tried everything he could, but it was futile before the church's will. On the day of
So
execution,
sad.
the desperate Otto released Honkai Beast on the execution ground. He planned to take Callan amid the chaos, but he underestimated Callan's resolve. In the end, Callan lost her life when protecting the people.
Oh,
Losing the love of his life painted Otto's world gray again. Resentful, he chased after Callan's shadow. He tried to give this sad story a happy ending as she would have wanted. He sounded the horn of revolution with his wisdom and cleansed the remaining evil with his hands. People sang his accomplishments and soldiers
complex.
admired his resourcefulness. As cheers of victory echoed through the silent church, Otto could not help but ask himself if this was enough. In the centuries that followed, the hole inside Otto was still agape. The only way to mend it was to revive the love of his life and the holy maid of the people, Callan Kaslana.
Kaslana.
In 1496, Otto had no choice but to travel to Shenzhou in search of the legendary Master Phoenix for a
His
chance to
hair is
revive
super cool with
Callan.
this.
He met the fledgling swordswoman Li Sushan and found the reborn Fuhua.
Oh, he
But to his surprise, even an immortal celestial had regrets and could not bring back departed souls. In the end, Otto and Fuhua made a pact. Schicksal would protect Shenzhou in the powerless Fuhua's place, and Fuhua would serve Schicksal as a Valkyrie.
So he just wants to revive.
In 1952, the
Callan?
first Honkai eruption broke
That's
out.
his mission.
Schicksal captured
He did
the
everything
amnesiac
just to
first
do that?
Hersher and performed 3 years
Wait,
worth of serial experiments on
okay.
him, which yielded nothing. Otto even approached him in person to persuade him into succeeding to the Schicksal Overseer, but failed. To eliminate risks, Otto decided to wipe out the North American branch that was about to discover Schicksal's ugly truth. He launched Honkai fission missiles at New York, where tens of millions lived. Heroes defending freedom and justice stepped forward and crushed Otto's scheme at the cost of their lives. This led to the independence of anti-entropy. This failure taught Otto to take hold of the power to retaliate Honkai, which led to the Clone Project and the Artificial Stigma Project. In 1972, Otto began running forbidden clone
And he
experiments
doesn't get
in the
old.
hope of reviving Callan, but the results were not satisfactory. After injecting the cells of Honkai Beast Vishnu, the first living batch of Callan clones was born. Otto made them fight one another to death at the end of the survival test. Only
That's
the
another
individual
level
number
of
A310
love.
rejected this absurd order. Her kindness in valuing life and her courage to defy her maker shocked Otto. he took A310 into his family and named her Teresa Apocalypse. Meanwhile, Otto established the Tower of Babylon laboratory to study artificial stigmata. Countless gifted children were taken from their parents and subjected to inhumane experiments
That's
day and
so
night.
evil. Yeah.
Insurmountable suffering and hatred against humanity nourished these Honkai vessels. At last, Siren, the second Herrscher, was born. Otto mustered Valkyrie troops to subdue the Herrscher, dived into her sentience with the help of Fuhua, and received revelation from the will of Honkai. After many great sacrifices were made, Otto gave the order to launch Honkai fission missiles at Siberia, to bury the truth deep beneath the scorched snowfield. Otto's resurrection project gradually took shape due to the guidance from above. For several years, Otto tried to create the most promising clone with Kiana Kaslana and Siren's genes for the second Herrscher to possess upon return.
Got it.
He transplanted the core of the second Herrscher to the test subject numbered K423.
Got it.
The longing
Now
for
I understand
Cecilia
why.
gave her life. After being taken to Saint Freya by Himeko, the love she felt and the bond she made helped her learn to love this world and those around her.
Yeah.
Watching Kiana move
Kiana.
along the path he designed, Otto
She's
knew when she
amazing.
began to believe she would never be alone was when he could advance the plan. In the illusory Tower of Babylon, the girl's despair and longing for motherly love facilitated the Herrscher persona's awakening. Fuhua took her back to Schicksal. The experiment pod confined her once again. Facing the pod, Otto's eyes only showed a hunger for the Herrscher of the Void's power. As Otto injected enormous Honkai energy into K423, Herrscher of the Void returned. Otto saved the dying Fuhua and told her his plan. Looking into Fuhua's furious eyes, Otto
Yeah,
paused
of
for a
course.
short yet long moment and pulled the trigger. Everything went according to his plan. Himeko burned up herself to tear through Siren's
Again,
will. Kiana's sentience returned
they
to the
love
body of the Herrscher.
to show that scene to us.
To obtain a Herrscher of the Void who could command the power with human will,
So everything
Otto
makes sense
trampled
now, like
emotions
the
and
stories are
disregarded lives.
combining together.
Otto believed that love and emotional bonds could evoke miracles, but he never respected nor honored them. So
He
far,
only,
Callan's revival was only
like,
missing a
thinks
key,
about himself.
Cosmic Juggernaut's beacon.
Just like
Previously,
cycle,
to
if
reach
you
the
think about it,
imaginary tree that governed how worlds worked,
right?
Schicksal cracked the legend of King Arthur and found the key of infinity that offered space travel in the River Thames, but it was incomplete. Durandal passed Pioneer Sue's test by chance and received information and experience as numerous as sand grains in the Ganges. To complete Cosmic Juggernaut, Otto struck a deal with World Serpent's leader. He traded Void Archives for Cosmic Juggernaut's beacon. When the Herrscher of Dominance and Hyperion were locked in battle, he took the Theater of Domination and thousands of cores in secret.
8.
At last, the fully prepared Otto returned to the beginning. Kolisten, where Schicksal's blood and tears
Kolisten?
were buried. It would become the end of his long journey.
Oh, he died.
On the other side of the stage, Valkyries had readied themselves as well.
Durandal.
Teresa would succeed as the Schicksal overseer and lead the newborn Schicksal toward a bright future. Bronya would shoulder the weight of the Welt name, for the Herrscher of Reason's path had stretched to her. Fuhua concluded a feud that spanned centuries, so she could embrace yesterday as a human and open the door to tomorrow.
Oh, Fuhua is amazing.
Kiana broke free from the shackles of fate and created a trail of flames that would guide them forward with her friends.
That's cool.
Durandal broke through the barrier of Kaslana and earned a new heritage that only belonged to her. Valkyries were eager to settle accounts with Otto.
Yeah.
Indeed, they won. Their crushing victory was a heavy blow to Otto. What they did not know was that their growth, their resolve, and even the joy of winning were also part of Otto's plan. What he planned
He's like
for
thinking
in the
ahead.
past 500 years
He's a
was
genius.
but a bargaining chip to attain death and a new life. After being defeated by Valkyries, Otto broke free from Imaginary's control momentarily. He imbued the world's wedge with all the false god's power to create infinite possibilities for Callan. As Otto left his last message, his sentience finally dissipated in the still time-space. To different people, Otto perhaps means different things. But to Otto himself, all rights and wrongs are transient.
No. He
has
did too
attained
much.
eternal peace.
You know,
His life as a fool is finally over.
he passed the limits. Way far from the limits, you know? Limits is here in Brazil. He's in Japan. You know? He destroyed the limit. Oh, that's so sad. That's, you know, like, we can understand that he loved Callan very much, but like, since she was alive, we could understand his personality, that he goes through the morals and everything only for his own profit, and he doesn't care about others since the beginning, so it's part of who he is. And when Callan died, I think his like evil side, like, because everybody has an evil side, right? But his evil side got even more powerful after she died, and he just got blind, and he was focusing in just one thing, to get her back, but it's impossible to get her back. And he did awful things. He destroyed a lot of people's life to get what he wants, but in the end it's impossible to have it what he wants. So yeah, he's an asshole. So after this journey, because this was a journey, now I can understand more, actually a lot more than before, of Honkai Impact's history. And it's so beautiful how complex and how detailed the stories are. Like, everybody's stories, they have a good and a sad side, and their personality too. Like, nobody is 100% good or 100% evil. Even Otto, right? We can see the human side of him. It's really hard to see, but we can see it. You know, he loved somebody before, and we can kind of understand why he did all the things that he did. And the girls' stories, they are also beautiful, and especially I think Fuha's stories got me the most because it was so sad. She lived a long life in misery, you know, watching her friends dying, and she's super strong, and I loved her story. I loved all his stories, but I think Fuhua's was the most like touching one. And yeah, if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I hope you like my reaction. And my next one probably will be reacting to all Honkai Impact trailers, and there are a lot. And besides that, comment down below which other reactions you want me to do here on my channel. So yeah, thank you guys so much for everything, for watching until here. And if you want to see my first ever reaction of Honkai Impact, I'll put the link down below in the description for you guys to check it out now. So thank you guys so much for watching, and see you in my next video. Bye bye.